All right, welcome, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Good to see you, Katie.
You too.
So this is part of our Meet the Team series. We're joined here by Katie DePaolo, who's on our board of advisors here at WinWin. So, Katie, welcome aboard. We're so glad to sit down and talk with you. This was the challenge for Amy and I in this segment. Can you briefly,
And if you can't, that's okay, because
yeah,
neither could we.
it was a challenge. 2 minutes or less. Tell us about you, your work, and then we're gonna dive into some more stuff. But the bio of Katie in 2 minutes or less.
Okay, start the clock. I am Katie DePaolo. I am currently the regional marketing manager at Team Impact, which is a national nonprofit that matches kids facing serious illness and disabilities with college sports teams. So we like to say it's not a moment, it's a movement. So the child is matched with the team for 2 years of clinically facilitated program, and then they get to go to games, practices, attend team events, team dinners, things like that. That's actually how I met Cody, was through the match that Team Impact has with the BC softball team. For me in particular, I really love the storytelling and the seeing athletes as more than athletes and seeing sports as more than sports. And so I do a lot of the storytelling through Team Impact and also work with a few other nonprofits to help amplify their stories.
Well, we were just talking before we started rolling about you went to film school and you're used to being on the other side of the camera. So tell us about your training, your educational experiences. How did you get to Team Impact?
Sure. So I like to say film school, but my specialization was actually television. And I went to the University of Notre Dame and studied film, television, and theater with my specialization in television production. And I also was a journalism student there. And I think when I was at Notre Dame, I always knew that I wanted to work in sports. I think that's part of why I went to Notre Dame. I grew up playing sports, and sports have always been a giant part of my family and my hometown. And so while I was at Notre Dame, I took as many opportunities as I could to work within the athletic department, within Fighting Irish Media, which is the media subset of the athletic department. I worked for the football team, for the men's lacrosse team. I just really tried to surround myself with opportunities like that. Once I graduated, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, so I ended up working for the Great Lakes Valley Conference, which is Division II conference in Indianapolis. Shout out to them. A lot of my favorite people still work there, and through Team Impact, I continue to work with the GLVC, so love them. And then the commissioner of the GLVC, Jim Namovich, he is friends with the program director at Team Impact. And so she had reached out when I was straight out of college and asked Jim, do you know anyone who may be interested in coming to Boston to work for Team Impact? And I learned a little bit more about Team Impact, met a few of the teammates through match teams at the GLVC, and I landed myself in Boston in 2017, and I've been there ever since.
What was the thing that drew you into Team Impact? Because it sounds like you were doing so much at Notre Dame on the sports side, and then this angle of social impact came in. What was that exposure? What was the thing that you said, okay, I think I could build a career in this.
I think it kind of goes back to something, Cody, you and I were talking about before we started recording, that the type of like, if why isn't anyone doing this? It feels like something everyone should be doing. And I think Team Impact is really unique in that it's a lifetime program. I think there's a lot of programs for children within the disability community that are a meet and greet or a one-off type thing. But the thing that really drew me to Team Impact is that you build these relationships for 2 years and then beyond that. And so it was giving opportunities to children who may not be able to play sports of their own to still have the support of a team and still rally behind what really makes sports important in the long run. It's not the sport itself, it's the camaraderie and the community and the support that comes with being part of a team. And what really drew me was that this is potentially for many kids the only opportunity that they will have to be part of a team. I was talking to a family in our program last week, and the mom was saying that she always just wanted her son always wanted to be able to go through the high five good game line, and because of his diagnosis he was never able to play on a sports team of his own. And so he got the opportunity that we take for granted all the time. How many times have you run through a line and high five someone and said good game after a game? And he got to do that for the first time once he was matched with his team through Team Impact. And his mom was like, it was so many happy tears because that was like a goal
Yeah.
that he never thought he'd be able to get. Just knowing that we're able to give these kids who sometimes aren't able to play sports an outlet to receive the support and team that comes through sports, I think is something that is very unique to Team Impact and something that really drew me to moving to Boston, to a city where I knew no one, and then 8 years later, still being there.
Something that Cody and I were talking about earlier today, too, was the bringing the lens of dignity and ethics and respect to how you tell stories. And just hearing you talk about this, like, what is different about the way that you approach telling these stories than you might see from some other angles?
I think it's really that I have had the opportunity to work so closely with child life specialists and social workers. And through my work with the clinical team at Team Impact and clinicians outside of Team Impact as well, I have learned more stuff about like the medical background than I would have ever been able to learn just with my own what I've gone through in my life and what I've studied. And I think that the clinicians that I have worked with have taught me so much. And a lot of the way that I speak about the families in our program has been through them teaching me messing up, me being corrected, me learning things along the way, and being able to build the relationships with them where they're not afraid to let me know if I said something wrong, and I'm not offended if they do tell me that. And I've just learned a lot from them. I also think I've really been in a position to work directly with the families, to have conversations like this with a child and a parent who saw their child go through a medical trauma or go through a medical journey that they never anticipated, and just being able to speak with families through interviews, through videos I've worked on, through events I've been at. I've really learned so much from them. And I'm honestly not sure where else I would have been able to learn that except through these connections with the clinical team and with the families themselves.
Gives you such good context from all sides. Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned a whole lot. I think another thing that I didn't entirely expect when I first started doing this work was how much I would learn from the student athletes themselves. When you have parents who are part of a program like Team Impact, whatever the circumstances that were thrown their way, they, in many times, were forced into being experts in a field that they may have never expected to find themselves in, or in a demographic or population that they never thought they'd be a part of. And so it's been really interesting to see the student athletes step into that role so flawlessly. Like, if we as adults are sometimes worried about the way we're saying something when working with the disability or pediatric illness populations, then as student athletes, I'm sure they have those same fears. But just seeing so many student athletes across the country step up and just fully accept that child for who they are, putting the child before their illness or disability and just making them feel like part of the team, it has been why we continue to do this work.
Yeah, it's reinforcing, Amy, this thread we were talking about this morning, which is that student athletes have these platforms now. They have the networks and the ability to amplify messages, and them being able to take these messages of hope and of scaling impact and of having connection with a different community than they would have normally, and using that power. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one thing that people were very worried would be lost with NIL, but I feel like that's a giant opportunity. I feel like in thinking that those things will be lost, we're almost undervaluing student athletes as agents of change within the philanthropic and social justice communities. Like, I have met so many student athletes who would do this work regardless of any benefit they got from it, just because they wanted to do the work. And I think that that's a big concern around NIL is that we're going to lose that within student athletes. And I feel like it's an opportunity for them to amplify even more the work that they're doing, just because they are leaders of change and they want to be doing the work.
Yeah. And they have so much visibility, to your point, right? They have the platform, and the platform does come with good things and with bad things. But this is definitely one of those big, bright, beautiful spots that can allow them to show who they are, not only as athletes, which is what a lot of the content is, but I think people more and more are wanting to see who they are off the field, off the court, outside the pool also, right? Like, who are they as humans? What's in their heart? What's in their core? What's their inspiration? And to be able to show that through the work that you're doing is pretty amazing.
Yep. All goes back to what we were saying, that it's not the sport, it's the team, it's the community, it's the camaraderie, it's everything that comes with sports. And sports is just the platform to amplify all of that. But those athletes are the ones who are really bringing that to life.
So, what do you see, Katie, moving forward? Yeah, I mean, you've seen so much of the really like the on the ground impact that can happen through sports, and you've documented this, and you've been able to cover it in such a compelling way. Where do you see this going?
Yeah. Well, I think after a collegiate student athlete graduates, they go on to the world and they have jobs, they go into the workforce, they become professional athletes. And I think that the philanthropic part of them doesn't leave just because they're not an athlete anymore. So I think in many ways they carry that on to the next chapter of their life, whether they support organizations and charities through being a fundraiser, through being a supporter, through continuing to attend events, through teaching that to their children when they have children. I feel like it's a multi-generational thing where, like, yes, you may have learned this in college as a student athlete, but that what you have learned from that, from something like Team Impact, from working with a family of a child living with an illness or disability, from being a student athlete, you carry that with you no matter what comes after your collegiate athletic career is over.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's as many people like that as we get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. One last question, Katie, and I'm very interested in this because you went to Notre Dame. I'm gonna make an assumption, but this is where I'm interested. Favorite sports memory? Is it something that happened on campus? Is it something else? What's your favorite favorite?
I wish I could trip you up and say that it isn't a Notre Dame thing, but of course it's a Notre Dame thing. What stands out to me as my favorite sports moment that I've experienced myself was the 2014 Notre Dame Michigan football game. I remember my freshman year, that's when it was announced that they were going to end the rivalry after the 2014 season. And for one of my writing classes, I wrote a eulogy to the Notre Dame Michigan rivalry. I was like so upset about it. And me and all my friends, everyone was looking forward to this game as like the last hurrah for the Notre Dame Michigan rivalry. And Notre Dame ended up blowing Michigan out. It was the first time in I think 365 games that Michigan had been shut out completely. There was some controversy at the end because if you ask a Notre Dame fan, they'll say that the final score was 38-0. But if you look at the record book, you'll see that it was 31-0 because there was a touchdown return that was called back right at the end of the game. But my friends and I, everyone was so excited. I cried. We stormed the field. It's the only time in my entire time at Notre Dame that we stormed the field. And I just remember that as like this, it was just the most beautiful moment in sports. We looked forward to this for so long, and the game went even better than any of us could have anticipated. And they have since picked back up the Notre Dame-Michigan rivalry, thankfully, because that is an incredible rivalry in sports. But that moment, I was just like, wow, we couldn't have written this to go any better as a Notre Dame fan.
I got goosebumps when you were describing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you still have the eulogy?
Oh, I'm sure I could find it. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look for it.
Yeah, we may have to put that out on the socials. Well, Katie, thank you so much for doing this. It's we're not only delighted but honored to have you as a part of what we're building. Your perspective is going to be so valuable to us as we start to move from the telling and curating of stories that already exist into actually being a part of the creating of new ones, those new memories and those new stories that are at this connection of sports and philanthropy. So we're so excited to have you here and can't wait to see what we do together.
Well, same to you guys. I'm very excited to be here. And this was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Painless.
Yeah, you're great on this side of the camera too.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Amy. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.